Do the New York Mets need to get Brandon Nimmo out of the three-hole? We'll talk about that and more on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. All the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to bring home that big win, so keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. Well, the New York Mets can't beat the Marlins. It is a very frustrating existence when this happens because this Marlins team is not good. Even after winning tonight, they're 20 games below 500. And yet the Mets offense all of a sudden becomes anemic against this Marlins team. Jesus Luzardo is a good pitcher. But I did not get blown away tonight by Jesus Luzardo's stuff. I was not sitting there thinking, man, this guy is just unhittable tonight. Yeah, he looked good in stretches. But there was also other times where the Mets got very hittable pitches that they just flatly missed. And that's going to happen. It's understandable. But you need these games if you really want to prove that you can make a run. And you have to win a series against the Marlins when you are in this position the Mets are at right now. You have to take advantage because this is supposed to be the easiest series they have left this month. Now, if they're going to play up to that or down to that, I guess in this case, is a whole nother conversation. But the Mets have to win these games, and you can't lose it this way because they got a pretty well-pitched ball game. Yes, they gave up 4 runs, but Tyler McGill was solid. Yes, he gets knocked out in the 5th inning, but if Mark Vientos makes a clean throw after making a diving stop, he probably does get through those 5 innings. That would have been the last out of the 5th. It was at the end of a rally the Marlins had where Brylan De La Cruz double scored a run, and a second run came in there on that play where Vientos, if he makes a clean throw, then you're out of it, and it's just 2 runs allowed, and it's a tie game, and McGill still probably exits, but it could look a lot different. Unfortunately, Vientos, who, again, made a nice stop on the play, just sort of pulled that throw a little bit and took Pete Alonso off the bag, and there you go. It ends up being a very costly error. But McGill struck out 7 in the first 3 innings. I don't come away from this concerned about McGill moving forward. I still like his stuff, and I believe he's going to be a valuable piece of this rotation this season. I'm not off on him. The bullpen threw the ball well tonight. You looked at Danny Young, who got the last out of that 5th, Sean Reed-Foley, and Drew Smith. Those 3 guys combined to get 10 outs and did not allow a hit or a walk. So that's pretty damn good. Adam Ottavino, of course, gave up a leadoff hit. And then there was an error by Francisco Alvarez on a base stealer where he threw the ball into the outfield. That allowed the runner to get to third, who scored on a sacrifice fly. So Ottavino gives up 1, but it's also unearned. The defense could have been better. But the reason the Mets lose this game is because they couldn't hit. You look at Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, and Brandon Nimmo, your 1 through 3 hitters. What do you think they batted across this game? They went 0 for 12. And you look at Lindor, he hit into a double play ball. You look at Alonso, he struck out twice, and he got a pitch from Jesus Luzardo that was middle. It is a fastball in a 1-1 count that was right down the pipe. And Pete Alonso was looking fastball, swung at the pitch, just got under it. If Pete connects there, hits a home run, ties the game, things could be different. But flies out. Brandon Nimmo, 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts. If the top of your lineup doesn't hit, it's really hard to overcome that. Now, the middle of the lineup picked him up in the 2nd inning, though. After a 1-2-3 first, here comes J.D. Martinez, who gets hit by a pitch, Starling Marte with the base hit, and Mark Vientos, the best hitter on the Mets right now, rips a double down the third base line that scores both of them and gives the Mets an early lead. But that was it. That was the offense for the game. 2 of the 4 hits came that inning, and no more runs came across after that point. I'm honestly not even sure if they got a runner in scoring position. I think maybe once. It was bad. They were 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position. Didn't have the opportunity because they just didn't get enough guys on base. And yeah, you can look at Jesus Luzardo and say he's a good pitcher. And he did, again, at times throw the ball well, but it's not like he struck out 9 here. The Mets just call it bad luck or just call it, not squaring up baseballs properly. They couldn't get the job done against him. And then you look at the end of the game, Tanner Scott gives them a 2-inning save. So there's no shame in that. Tanner Scott is a 1.30 ERA in the season. He struck out 3 of the 6 batters he faced, and he retired them all. So 8th, 9th inning, I don't fault the Mets for not scoring there. But you look at Anthony Bender and Andrew Nardi in those middle innings, you couldn't get a run across against those guys. Bender has a 4.91 ERA, Nardi 5.04. And Luzardo, after 5 2/3 of 2-run ball, 5.11. These are guys that are giving up runs in half the innings they pitch, more than. And you can't scratch more than 2. It's a big wasted opportunity by the New York Mets to get up on the Marlins in this series, carry momentum, and now they got to try to grab it back and win 2 in a row, which is not easy to do against any team. So hopefully the Mets can fight their way back into this series, but this was a very frustrating game. And it leads me to ask, with that 1-3 setup, the guys that went 0 for 12 tonight with 5 strikeouts, is this how the Mets should continue to line it up? Because Brandon Nimmo has been abysmal in the 3-hole. I want to talk about that a little bit more in the next segment. First, though, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Mets, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Again, that's call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in this episode description below. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less than on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Yesterday, I told you Francisco Lindor runs at 0.5, Tyler McGill strikeouts at 5, Pete Alonso's hits, runs, and RBIs at 1.5. I said go more on all of them, and I was wrong on 2 of those 3. Just can't count on Lindor and Alonso right now. McGill did hit the strikeouts, though, and I believe David Peterson will today. His strikeouts also set at 5. And the way that Nimmo's swinging the bat, Braxton Garrett getting 4 strikeouts, that seems like a likelihood too. So I'm taking more there. We're just looking at strikeouts today, Mets, Marlins. You want to win big, head over to Prize Picks. They also offer weekly promotions and special offers for the biggest moments in sports. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. With the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals going on, make sure you don't miss out on any of the latest in the world of sports. Check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. Now, I was going to spend a ton of time, I did spend. With the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals going, With the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals going on, make sure you don't miss out on any of the latest in the world of sports. Check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. Now, I spent about 45 minutes tonight poring over Brandon Nimmo's Fangraphs and Baseball Savant page trying to figure out what's wrong with him. I was looking at the fact that, oh, wow, his pop-up percentage is down, his line drive percentage is up, his ground ball rate's the same, fly ball percentage is a little bit down. Doesn't look like there's anything there. He's pulling the ball a little bit more. He's not going opposite field as much. He can't hit a splitter, but he hasn't seen a lot of them, so that's probably not the issue. I went into his whiff rate against breaking balls and off-speed pitches and how that is up from last year, and the fact that his quality of contact is much better, but he's making less contact. He's whiffing more. He's chasing a little bit more. He's striking out more. He's walking more, though, and tried to find a million different reasons for what's wrong with Brandon Nimmo this year. But then I went to the low-hanging fruit, which was, hey, Nimmo sucks as a three-hole hitter. Okay, everyone's seeing it, so let me look at the stats. And they're so overwhelmingly obvious that all those advanced stats and the numbers that I probably bore some of you with anyway, it hurt me, but I just deleted it from my show notes. I said, yeah, this was a lot of research I put into this, but it does not matter when you compare it to how bad he's been batting third. You look at Brandon Nimmo at his best. In April, he walked 21 times. He struck out 22 times. Now, he wasn't getting the results that you would have wanted, but that was the month where I could have looked at the quality of contact, told you his expected batting average, his expected slugging percentage, and how Brandon Nimmo was much better than the results he was getting, right? He was putting himself in a good position a lot. Well, since this switch, 20 games batting third. 12 out of the 20 games he has struck out multiple times. Only 3 games has he not recorded a single strikeout out of 20. So 17 of 20 games, he has at least one strikeout. 12 of 20, multiple strikeouts. 35 strikeouts in 20 games with just 6 walks. And this month, in June, it's 12 strikeouts to 1 walk. He is looking at pitches for strike 3 way more than we ever see from Brandon Nimmo as a great eye. We've seen multiple times, or we saw multiple times in that London series, Nimmo running to first base on a pitch that clearly got black when you looked at that square strike zone they show you on the broadcast. Some of them were well within the zone, and he thinks he's walking, and he's just not seeing the ball. He is chasing out of the zone at an exorbitant rate in the 3-hole. You just see it all the time, him swinging at pitches that are way out of the zone. What's going on there? Brandon Nimmo, surprisingly, has raised his batting average batting third. He's in 237 in the 3-hole. He was in 216 in the leadoff spot. But his on-base percentage has gone from 363 as a leadoff hitter to 318. Slugging down 44 points from 399 to 355. Now, you look at the walk rate and the strikeout rate, and it tells the whole story. His walk rate batting leadoff this year was 15.4%. That was going to be the best mark in a long time for Brandon Nimmo. Since going to the 3 spot, he's walking at 7.1%. That's half. That's actually less than half the amount of walks he was getting before. Strikeout rate has gone from 19.2% to 36.5%. And these rates that I just gave you do not include tonight where he went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. So that strikeout rate could be all the way up to 40% at this point, for all I know. And the walk rate, he didn't walk. That's only going to probably drops below 7%. This is not where Brandon Nimmo is comfortable at all. The funny thing, though, if you look at his Fangraphs stats, you look at the splits, and you look at batting with the bases empty or batting with runners on or runners in scoring position, he has been way worse this year batting with the bases empty. So you can say, all right, we'll put him back in the leadoff spot, but Francisco Lindor has been on fire as a leadoff hitter. He's hitting over 300. He's getting on base at a 374 clip. He's slugging at close to a 500 clip. He has an 862 OPS. And we talk about WRC plus. His 151 WRC plus is 51% better than the league average hitter. He's been awesome. And when he batted in the 2-hole, he had a 419 OPS. In the 3-hole, 697 OPS. So yeah, you could say, all right, just flip Lindor and Nimmo, put him back in the 3-hole. That's maybe the easiest change. And Lindor, if he's figured his swing out, that could just make sense. It's simple. You just flip those 2 guys. You keep everything else how it's been. Or you could say, all right, put Nimmo at 1, Lindor at 2, Alonso at 3. The Mets tried that, though. Pete Alonso in the 3-hole has a 610 OPS. In the 2-hole, 794 OPS. Cleanup, 878 OPS. So how do you get Pete batting cleanup? This is where I think the Mets should look to make a move. Pete Alonso batting second just looks wrong. I don't know. To me, it just does. I know you say put your best hitter batting second. I don't think Pete Alonso is the Mets' best hitter. He feels like a cleanup guy or someone you bat third, but it didn't work for him batting third this year. So to me, put him to the cleanup spot. All right, so who's going to bat second? You could bat Nimmo second. Haven't tried that one yet. He is great in the leadoff spot or has been throughout his career. Maybe second's the place for him. And I would say this year's results set aside, if you had to ask me who is the best hitter on the New York Mets over the last 3 years, I would say it has been Brandon Nimmo. So it does make some sense on that front. Then I would put JD Martinez third. Now, I know that John Heyman's voice rings loudly from this offseason when he was Scott Boras's mouthpiece talking about how JD Martinez started an all-star game as the cleanup hitter last year. It's a great line. And yes, he has had a lot of success in his career batting cleanup. But you go back to his days in Boston, he also spent a ton of time batting third. And I don't really think JD Martinez cares where he hits. So you put Nimmo second instead of third, JD Martinez batting third. All you're basically doing is you're taking that same two, you're moving them up, and you're sliding Alonso to cleanup. And I would hope that that could spark some things for Nimmo and for Alonso. And honestly, when it comes to this trio of Nimmo, Lindor, and Alonso, they've become very frustrating to this fan base because the last year and a half has been awful. And 2021 wasn't great either. 2022, that trio was great. And they helped the Mets win 101 games. They were the driving force. Best three players on that team, although we forget Jeff McNeil was actually really good that year too. Still, those three guys, they're the ones you're building your franchise around. Nimmo, Lindor have gotten the contracts. Pete Alonso, it's up for debate. Now, if you're saying that you can't win with these three, well, Pete Alonso has to be set aside. But I'm working on something when it comes to Pete Alonso and how the Mets need him and he needs the Mets. We'll talk about that maybe later this week. I have a really kind of thought out opinion on that one based on the next year's free agent class. Yet, because this has been the three, if you want to shake up the core, it just ends up based on the contracts pointing to Alonso having to be the guy that's shown the door. I don't want to see that happen. But what I think needs to happen for this Mets team ultimately is to have a fourth player in the mix that's better than those three, or a fourth hitter. Maybe it's Mark Vientos. Honestly, if I had my druthers, I'd bet Vientos second. I would go Lindor, Vientos, JD Martinez, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo. That's how I would do it. I just can't see the Mets going that far. But you need to have a hitter that's better than those three guys. And based on career track record, JD Martinez has been better than those three guys. So what I would do is I'd break those three guys up with JD Martinez right now. And again, if it was really up to me, I would slide Vientos up into that first inning also and push Nimmo to the second inning, so to speak, batting fifth. That would be the drastic move. But if you're just trying to get Nimmo out of the three hole and move Alonso into the cleanup spot, I think that's a way that this lineup gets better. Because they've had some positive momentum, I doubt they make a shift tomorrow. Even though there's a lefty on the mound, it would make a ton of sense to stack righties. Maybe you just give Nimmo a day. That might be the move, right? Start Taylor, start Bader, and play with a lineup that goes Lindor, Vientos, Martinez, Alonso. I'd love it. I'd love it. Or maybe they'd slide Marte back in the two-hole, which is another way the Mets can go about this. Put Nimmo second, put Marte second, put JD Martinez third, Alonso fourth, slide Nimmo down to fifth. Could do that. Or if you really want to be boring, you just go back to Marte 2 and you keep Nimmo 3, Alonso 4, Martinez 5, or you go back to 2022 and you go with Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso now with the addition of JD Martinez. But I like to see the Mets change things up and ultimately split up those three guys in the lineup in some capacity. And we're going to talk pitching in the next segment because there's some news on Edwin Diaz, Kodai Senga, Christian Scott. So I'll touch on all of those items in just a minute. Also, we'll bid adieu to Tomas Nido, but we'll get to all that. First, though, a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, or it brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our text and service where you can ask me questions anytime. You can also get updates whenever something breaks in the Mets. You get the lineup graphics sent to your phone each day so you know the starting nine. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways. We're running one right now for the latest departed Met, Tomas Nido. If you want to be an insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. And the insiders got the message today from me that Tomas Nido was probably about to leave the Mets organization. He sent out a tweet pretty much thanking everyone. He has been in the Mets organization since 2012. And by my math, off the top of my head, I believe he is the second longest tenured Met to only Brandon Nimmo, who goes back to 2011. But Nido was drafted out of high school in the 8th round. He has been in this organization for over a decade. And I feel like he's coming off his best run of performance at the big league level. But he was really good over this, whatever it was, last month and a half or so, since Alvarez went down. I really felt like Nido gave the Mets some great performance, not only behind the dish, but he swung the bat pretty well at times. Is he an above average hitter? No, but is he above average for the catcher position lately? He has been. So it's just unfortunate, but the Mets had to go with the better guy, and Luis Torrens sort of proved to be that in his short stint here with the Mets. They got a great opportunity to pick him up. They jumped on it, and moving forward, I think he helps them win more than Nido does. And now Nido might end up on the Phillies because JT Realmuto is out. I was shocked to hear the timeline because originally they said 6 to 8 weeks with knee surgery, but now they're saying it could be just a month. Regardless, it feels like Nido might just end up over there, and I'm sure he'll hit a bunch of home runs and be awesome. But big shout out to Nido for an awesome tenure with the Mets. If you last in an organization for 12 years, that not only means that you do something right on the field, but it means you're a pretty good person too. So I wish him nothing but the best moving forward, unless he's on the Phillies or the Braves. Then I hope he sucks. But hey, he gets that. That's part of the territory. Pitching notes. Edwin Diaz, still not back. I will not take other people's word for it again because I told you last week, I believe, that Edwin Diaz would not be eligible to return until Thursday because I counted 15 days since he was optioned on May 29th. But then I guess maybe people counted from the last time he pitched, and I thought, oh, maybe the Mets backdated that IL stint. And we're able to take it to the 25th, and it does make sense that he's eligible to return on Tuesday. I took other people's word for it, and Carlos Mendoza said today that Edwin Diaz threw a bullpen. He looked good. He said, I was there, off tomorrow. Then the plan is to activate him on Thursday when he's eligible. So I shouldn't have taken it from, I think it was TacomaLA.com, but it doesn't matter who said it. Regardless, Thursday, Diaz comes back, and that's when they'll have to make a decision on what they do with their bullpen, who gets DFA'd or optioned, although Danny Young pitched great again today. So I hope he stays, even though he has the optionality. And everyone who's been listening to this show over the last couple of weeks knows how much I love Daniel Nunez. So we'll see what that decision ultimately proves to be. On yesterday's show, I talked about the possibility of Jose Quintana getting DFA'd. I did not see Christian Scott listed to start in Syracuse. I ran with that, sent out a tweet that I've since deleted, and I texted the insider, said, I'm thinking that Scott's going to come back this week. Well, I missed the part before the game where Carlos Mendoza came out and said the Mets are sticking with the 5-man rotation right now. Christian Scott is in line to pitch tomorrow. That was Wednesday, so Blade Tidwell pitched tonight. Scott on Wednesday, and he said, quote, well, we are still having conversations with all the off days we have coming up. We feel like a 5-man rotation is what's best for us moving forward. He threw 5 innings the other day. He's scheduled to pitch tomorrow again, and we'll see him back. Here's the frustrating thing to me about the Christian Scott situation. If the plan is to stick to a 5-man rotation, why did he throw 5 innings last week? Why is he going to probably throw 5 innings again this week? And if you're going on this off days, why are you going to basically burn 20 innings of Christian Scott in the month of June pitching in AAA? That's the part that rubs me the wrong way, because Christian Scott versus Jose Quintana as pitchers right now, it's no contest. Now, you could say, all right, well, they want a 6-man rotation that will include Jose Quintana and Christian Scott for that stretch when they have 17 games in 17 days. But if you lose 3 more Quintana starts in the meantime, and you're still losing with him after that, what's that proof? Now, granted, Quintana has a track record, and I get that. I get not wanting to throw him aside. But at the same time, it feels like you're wasting Christian Scott in AAA. It just does. And if they pulled back his innings, I'd be okay with it. That's the funny part. And maybe that's just me being too obsessed with innings counts. That maybe the Mets view completely differently. Maybe they don't think it's beneficial to shut him down and ramp him up, which could be completely valid. I know they have more data and information, far more than I do. But it doesn't make it any easier to watch this guy go to the minor leagues. If he starts again at Syracuse, now they said he'll throw tomorrow. Does that mean he's going to throw in a game? I imagine, but maybe not. Maybe it's a bullpen session, and he is back on Saturday, and I'm just yelling at the clouds for no reason. But I'm assuming he's going to start, and I'm assuming he's going to pitch 5 innings again, and he'll probably carve up that lineup, and you're just going to think, man, that would have looked nice on Saturday against the Padres. And if Jose Quintana gets knocked out in the 4th inning again, I'm going to be a little frustrated. But maybe you make that decision at a later date. Maybe it is one more turn for Quintana, and if he gets blown up, maybe that's when they make a move. But if this holds for the rest of the month, I feel like they're wasting this guy when bullets are valuable for pitchers these days. And I wouldn't throw them aside, but we'll see. Kodai Senga, speaking of pitchers who have been conserving bullets this year or afraid to throw them, there's been a lot of confusion about what's going on with Senga. Is he healthy? Is he not? Mechanics are off, all these different things. At least he's throwing off the mound now. According to Carlos Mendoza, Senga has begun throwing off the mound, and the plan is to have him return sometime after the All-Star break. He threw a bullpen on Sunday, said he was off yesterday, long toss today. The plan is for him to throw another bullpen either tomorrow, or which would be Wednesday or Thursday, and then they'll continue his progression. We won't know anything until he gets into a game. Once you see him begin a rehab assignment, that's when you could say, all right, Kodai Senga is really on the mend to come back. But until then, you just can't count on it. If you told me over under 10 starts this year from Kodai Senga, I do not know what I would say. I really don't. I'd say I don't want to bet money on that. Because if he gets back right after the All-Star break or right after the deadline even, I think Quintana had 11, 12 starts last year after missing the first 2/3 of the season. So he still can get there to 10 starts, but I just have no way to pin my expectations on that one. So it's TBD for now. That's going to be all, though, for today's show. I might do the Pete Alonso and the Mets Need Each Other podcast tomorrow, unless there is a more interesting topic that comes across. The Mets always like to cook up some new stuff for us. So we'll see if there's some news or something else to cover. Otherwise, it'll be an Alonso podcast. So make sure you don't miss out on that. If you are listening on the audio side, follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Trying to make a push to 9,000 subs. We're getting close. I appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen or your first watch every day, not for your second watch. Head over to YouTube and check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7, giving you the latest on everything that is hot right now in the world of sports. So check out Locked On Sports Today, again, streaming 24/7 on YouTube.